over Bangladesh for decades and continues to impact Bangladesh as it stands today. I would like to invite our special panel of speakers onto the stage now. First of all, I would like to invite the Bangladesh Awami League International Affairs Secretary, Dr. Shami Ahmed, onto the stage. I would then like to call Roma Bhai, who is a witness of the Bangabandhu and his family killings on the fateful night of 15 August 1975. I would then like to call on Ms. Nahid Ezhar MP, member of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Defense, and also the daughter of Colonel Khandakar Nazmul Huda, who was killed as part of this killing spree of August. I would then like to call upon stage Honorable Law Minister, Advocate Anisul Haq MP. I would also like to call on stage Honorable Foreign Minister, Dr. A.K. Abdul Momen. I would now like to call Mohammad Zomir, retired ambassador, chairman of the Bangladesh Awami League International Affairs Subcommittee. I would also like to introduce Bangladesh Awami League Presidium member Abdur Rahman and Bangladesh Awami League Presidium member Jahangir Kabir Nanak. I would please like to call Mr. Abdur Rahman and Mr. Jahangir Kabir Nanak onto stage as well. Our special panel of speakers today will take us through various aspects of the impact of the events of August. There will also be a round of questions and answers, following which today's discussion will conclude with lunch at Santur, right opposite from where we are now. Before we begin our discussion, I would like to request all of you to stand and maintain a minute's silence in commemoration of the lives lost on 15 August 1975 and the series of events that ensued as a result of that day. Thank you. I would now like to start off the discussions by calling Bangladesh Awami League International Affairs Secretary Dr. Shami Ahmed to deliver her welcome speech.
Good morning. The dream of liberation, the idea of freedom, epitomized by one man, the greatest Bengali of all generation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Honorable dignitaries, excellencies, I, Dr. Shami Ahmed, International Affairs Secretary, Bangladesh Awami League, thank you for joining us as we host this program on National Mourning Day. The date, August 15, is not the story of the heinous and gruesome acts against a family, but against the nation Bangladesh. When we think about Bangabandhu as a leader, we think of him as the visionary leader who made a generation believe that emancipation is not only a distant dream but a possibility. Due to his untimely assassination, we do not always do justice to his pedigree as the nation's builder. However, if we look closely, it is his fundamentals and ideology, socialism, secularism, nationalism and democracy, we can say Mujibism, that still to this day provide the guiding light of our development. Even the premise of our foreign policy of friendship to all and malice to none is the concept of this great visionary. In spite of inheriting a war-torn country, Bangabandhu took measures that lead to a GDP growth of 8.4% in 2 years of liberation in 1974. Then the Indian famine hit, which can be laid down to the elaborate international plot to assassinate not only the father of the nation, but to plunge Bangladesh into the dark ages. Although it was carried out by a cluque of renegades and traitors who were later rewarded, it was the victory of the anti-liberation forces. They not only assassinated Bangabandhu, but carried out the ghastly and gruesome killing against a family, not sparing the 10 years old son of Bangabandhu, Sheikh Russell. The only fault of this visionary leader and his family was the belief in freedom and trust in the people. What we shouldn't forget, these traitors wanted to sniff out any traces of the idea of liberation by carrying out November 4th jail killing of 4 Awami League national leaders. From a country born from the ashes of deprivation, with the light of the leadership of Bangabandhu, to being plunged into a abyss of coups and years of military rules. Bangladesh never really recovered over the next 2 decades. During these military rules, especially under one of the principal protagonists of the assassination of Bangabandhu, General Ziaur Rahman, the Deputy Chief of Army Staff in 1975, Bangladesh held around a GDP growth rate of 2 to 3%. We are not only hampered in economic terms, but this dictatorship gave birth to religious extremism. Even to this date, Elif Schultz opined the current political configuration is a direct descendant of August 15, 1975. BNP, the party of General Ziaur Rahman, the architect who played critical behind-the-scenes role in the plotting coup and the events that followed, is a party born to support the anti-liberation forces and players. With their allies, that is Jamaat-e-Islami, they encouraged radical extremism and ushered in a period of widespread corruption. During their rule from 2001 to 2006, they carried out mass murders of Awami League leaders, topped off by the gruesome attempt to assassination the daughter of Bangabandhu, our current Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, on August 21, 2004 grenade attack. One of the 20th assassination attempts to our party chief. This attack left 24 dead and more than 300 injured. The reign of terror continued and was epitomized by the series of bombing on August 17, 2005, when around 500 bombs explosion occurred at 300 locations in 63 out of 64 districts of Bangladesh. August is always have heart attached to it for the people of this country. In all, started on August 15 and carried on to August 21st. In this, how we should have repaid the visionary of our liberation, or did our party chief, as one who is leading us to economic stability, deserve the attempt assassination for fighting for the right of our people and giving substance to our father of the nation's dreams? We all hear about these issues and much more from our informed and a group of speakers today. I once again thank you all. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu, Joy Sheikh Hasina, long live Bangladesh. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Shami Ahmed. I would now like to call Roma Bhai, Mr. Roma, who is one of the witnesses of the killing of Bangabandhu and his family on 15 August 1975. He will detail the story of what he witnessed.
Assalamu alaikum. আমার নাম আব্দুর রহমান রমা। আসসালামু আলাইকুম। আমার নাম আব্দুর রহমান রমা। 1975 এর 15ই আগস্ট আমি এই বঙ্গবন্ধুর বাড়িতেই ছিলাম।
In 1975, in August, I was at Bangabandhu's home.
তো ভোর 5টা কি 5:30টার দিকে কিছু আর্মি ওদিক থেকে গুলি করতে করতে আমাদের বাসার দিকে আসে। এই বাসায়
I could hear gunshots coming from 5 a.m. in the morning onto our road, on this road, in the house that you see.
আমরা গুলির আওয়াজেই আমাদের ঘুম ভেঙে যায়।
We were woken up by the sounds of gunshots.
তো বেগম মুজিব তার ঘরের দরজা খুলে বলতেন যে দেখো বঙ্গবন্ধুর ভগ্নিপতি সেন্নিবাদ সাহেব আক্রমণ করেছে, তোমরা কে কোথায় আসো এটা দেখো।
Begum Mujib opened the door and said, Serniabat's house has been attacked. Where are all of you? What is going on?
উনি তখন বলে আমার ছেলে শেখ জামালকে ডাকো আমার কাছে। আমি ওনাদেরকে তার রুমের থেকে ডেকে নিয়ে আসি।
Then she told me to call Sheikh Kamal, and I was the one to wake them up and bring them up.
পরে ইন্ডিয়ান টাইমে আমি নিচে আসি, এসে দেখি আমাদের বাড়িতে সামনে অনেক আর্মি কালো পোশাক এবং খাকি পোশাকের লোকজন গুলি করতে করতে আসতেছে।
When I came down, I saw that there were many men wearing black attire and holding a lot of armed weapons.
আমি ওইখান থেকে আমি আবার উপরে চলে যাই এবং বেগম মুজিব দরজা খুলে দেয়। আমি যাইয়ে ভিতরে ঢুকি। যাওয়ার সময় দেখলাম বঙ্গবন্ধু নিচে টেলিফোনে অনেকের সাথে যোগাযোগ করার চেষ্টা করে।
And then I went upstairs and then I saw that Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was making a lot of calls to a number of different people.
তো ওনাকে সাহায্য করার মতন কেউ সাড়া দেয়নি।
I couldn't see anyone that had come forward to help him.
আমি বঙ্গবন্ধু উপরে যাই তার রুমে, আমি ওনার সাথেই ছিলাম। আরেক গ্রুপ এসে বঙ্গবন্ধুর দরজা খুলে খুব টাকাচ্ছিল এবং তাই বঙ্গবন্ধু দরজা খুলে বেরিয়েই বলছে তোমরা কি চাও, কোথায় নিয়ে যাবে তোমরা?
I was with Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman until some people came and knocked on his door, and then he opened the door and said, "Who are you? What do you want?"
তো ওরা বলে যে আসেন আপনাকে আমরা নিয়ে যাব।
They said that please come with us. We want to take you.
তো বঙ্গবন্ধু সামনে ওদের সাথে আসলে আপনার পিছে 5-7 জন আর্মি বন্দুক থেকে আমার পাশে বন্দুকটা গায়ে রাখছে। বঙ্গবন্ধু 3-4 সিঁড়িতে নামার পরেই সামনের দিকে গুলি করে।
They had armed weapons. They were carrying armed weapons, and they told us to come with them. And then, as Bangabandhu led the way and took a few steps down, that's when they shot him.
বঙ্গবন্ধুর সাথে সাথে সিঁড়িতে লুটে পড়ে আমাকে বলে তুমি আবার ভিতরে যাও। আমি আবার ভিতরে যাই, বেগম মুজিবকে জানাই যে বঙ্গবন্ধুকে গুলি করেছে।
After that, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman fell on the steps as he was shot, and he instructed me then and there to go and inform Begum Mujib.
আমি ভিতরে যাই, আবার আরেক গ্রুপে আসে, তখন আবার দরজা খুলে সবাইকে ডাকে কে আছে। তো পাঠকের নাম জিজ্ঞেস করছিল শেখ জামাল আছে কি। তারপরে আমরা ওই রুমের মধ্যে আমি, বেগম মুজিব, ওনার বঙ্গবন্ধুর ভাই শেখ আবু নাসের, শেখ জামাল, ওনার ছোট ছেলে শেখ রাসেল, ওনার ছেলের বউ সুলতানা কামাল, রোজি জামাল, আমরা সবাই ওই এক রুমেই ছিলাম। পরবর্তীতে ওই আর্মিরা সবাইকে বার করে আমাকে এবং রাসেল ভাইকে এবং নাসের কাকাকে ওনারা বলে সবাই সিঁড়িতে নামাচ্ছিল।
And then they huddled us all into a room. The rest of the family were there, including 10-year-old Sheikh Russell and the wife of the sons of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. They were huddled there, and then they had come into that room.
বেগম মুজিব সহ আমরা যখন নিচে আসতেছিলাম, বেগম মুজিব সিঁড়িতে যখন দেখে বঙ্গবন্ধু সে বেগম মুজিব বলে আমি বঙ্গবন্ধুকে মেরে ফেলেছ, আমি আর ওখানে যাব না, আমাকে এখানেই মেরে ফেলো। ওরা বেগম মুজিবকে নিয়ে উপরে যায় এবং ওরা তখন 3-4টা গুলি হচ্ছিল এবং গুলি হচ্ছিল এবং ওই মহিলাদের আত্মচিৎকার শোনা যাচ্ছিল।
Then when Begum Mujib saw Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's body on the steps, she said that I won't go anywhere. If you want to kill me, you kill me here. I'm not going to go anywhere with you. You've already killed him.
আমাদেরকে নিচে নিয়ে আসে এখানে গাছের তলে বসায় রাখে, আমি শেখ রাসেল এবং আরও অন্য পুলিশের লোকজন ছিল। পরে রাসেল ভাই আমার কাছে বাসা থাকছিল।
I and Sheikh 10-year-old Russell were kept under a tree, and we were waiting there.
পরবর্তীতে শেখ আবু নাসেরকে ওনার ভিতরে নিয়ে বলে তোমরা ভিতরে যান, ভিতরে নিয়ে ওনাকে ওখানে আমাদের বাথরুম আছে, ওই বাথরুমের মধ্যে গুলি করে।
Then Abu Nasser was taken into a bathroom, and he was killed in that bathroom.
আমাদেরকে ওইখানে গাছতলায় বসা রাখে। রাসেল ভাই খুব কান্নাকাটি করতেছিল এবং বলতেছিল আমি মার কাছে যাব।
We were still sitting under the tree. I was with Sheikh Russell, and he kept crying. He kept saying that he wants to go to his mother. He wants to go to his mother.
তো ওনাকে যে এক অফিসার এখানে বসেছিল উনি বলল ঠিক আছে নিয়ে যাও। তো ওরা নিয়ে গেল। 2-3 মিনিটের মধ্যে 4-5টা গুলি হলো, গুলিতে আর কিছু শোনা গেল না। পরবর্তীতে ওনাদের এক অফিসার আসলো, আসার জিজ্ঞেস করলো এখানে আর কে আছে। তোরা বললো যে না সবাই শেষ।
Sheikh Russell was then taken inside, and then I could hear 4 to 5 gunshots, and then I couldn't hear anything anymore. And then a senior officer came and asked, who else is there? And then another officer responded, no one is left.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Roma Bhai. I would now like to call Ms. Nahid Ezahar MP, member of Standing Committee on Defense. She is also a victim of the events of August, as her father was killed in August. You will hear the story from her.
Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to all. My name is Nahid Izar Khan, and I'm currently a member of parliament. Representing the Bangladesh Army League. August is a month of mourning, and with due respect, I remember the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, his family, who were brutally killed on the 15th of August, 1975. Our national leaders who were killed on 3rd November 1975, the martyrs of independence, the victims of 17th August bomb attack, victims of 21st grenade attack, my father, Shahid Colonel Najmul Huda Bir Bikram, along with his two compatriots, Major General Khalid Mosharraf Bir Uttam and Colonel ATM Haider Bir Uttam. My due respect to them. Whilst what I intend to speak with you are matters that may seem personal, I hope that through my personal accounts, you will be able to appreciate how far Bangladesh has been able to come and how much further we are able to go with our collective efforts as a united nation, and also your continued support of your government and everything we stand for. We are a nation whose bedrock is built with hardship, optimism, resilience, and desire for progress. This bedrock has been specially reinforced since our government came into power for the second time in 2008, and we believe that we have a foundation to tackle the challenges that lay ahead. I highly appreciate the collective efforts and vision of our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, her cabinet members, the leadership teams in our various ministries, and all our various colleagues who are working tirelessly to give Bangladeshis and the world the dream of Bangabandhu Sonar Bangla. And every year it seems that we are getting one step closer and better. I am proud to say that I come from the family that is fearlessly and selflessly patriotic. The sense of patriotism was instilled very early in our lives by my father, late Colonel Najmul Huda Bir Bikram, whose stories of patriotism, loyalty, courage, leadership, honesty you may have heard in various other occasions. My father represented everything I aspired to be, and I am immensely grateful to our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina that she has considered me to be a member of a team which each and every day pursue the dreams of her father, her family, and my father, and the various brothers and sisters who gave up everything, including their lives, for the dream of Sonar Bangla. For his honesty, integrity, lack of worldly demands, and professionalism, most people refer to my father by the nickname he had earned through the action of his life, Gudu. It's quite literally translated to a good man, and as the people continue to refer to him by that name, it instills within me a sense of relief and happiness. That is, in his short life, my father was able to win the nation's heart, instill bravery and principle in a country that has been broken, and show a way to forward when hope was a scarce resource. My father was 27 years old when he was arrested along with Bangabandhu for the historic Agartala case. During their time together in imprisonment, Bangabandhu recognized some of the exceptional qualities of my father: his deep sense of patriotism, his loyalty to his motherland, his courage and boldness in the face of adversity, his unwavering innate strength which could not be broken through the relentless torture he underwent in prison, finally his leadership and ability to inspire. The Agartala case collapsed due to the baseless and ungrounded accusation, and the next proving ground for my father was the War of Liberation in 1979 under the leadership of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. leaving all us behind, and my father took part in the Liberation War, where for his gallantry in the battlefield, he was recently awarded the Shadhinata Padak, which is the highest honor in Bangladesh. Under his leadership and inspiration, Joshua became the first sector of Bangladesh to be liberated on the 6th of December. Celebration was transitory as men as my father had to roll up their sleeves and start rebuilding the nation for the ruins of war. My father was handpicked by Bangabandhu to become the architect and the first commandant of Bangladesh Military Academy, which over the years has built some of the finest officers serving Bangladesh at home and abroad. No one had ever imagined that while rebuilding was going on in full pace and Bangabandhu and his leadership team were tirelessly working for the country and the globe to forge diplomatic ties and partnership, a certain sect of people were plotting the darkest days in Bangladesh's history. These men were selfish, power-hungry, against independence, lacked an ounce of principle, and worst of all, lacked any experience of what it takes to effectively lead a nation. The scant leadership capabilities meant that they regularly squabbled among themselves, stabbed each other in the back when convenient, jumped headfirst into a rat race with no clear purpose, and for their clear lack of vision and poor judgment, they concluded that bloodshed only is the way forward. August 15, 1975 was the day when Bangladesh moved 100 years in one morning. On that day, for the first time, I saw my father cry. Continuously, he asked, how could they kill Bangabandhu? How could they kill their family so mercilessly? My father's pursued justice of killing of Bangabandhu was a sticking thorn on the sides of Bangabandhu's killer and their accomplices. In the next 80 days, my father would dedicate every moment chasing justice, and for that he had to give his life. The 4th of November, that very same year, it was our last day with our father. I was in the bed when he hugged me and promised me to come back from Dhaka by evening. That unfortunately never happened, as on the 7th of November, my father, along with his two compatriots, Major General Khalid Mosharraf Bir Uttam and Colonel A.T.M. Haider Bir Uttam, were brutally assassinated in the National Parliament grounds. They were dragged, they were shot, and they were ruthlessly killed with bayonets. His final instruction to one of the officers present was, my mother should take us and go to my grandparents' place. I hope that when you leave today's meeting, you will remember men like Bangabandhu, my father, his fellow fallen compatriots, and the thousands of patriotic men and women who were unwavering in their virtues and individuality as leaders. They never succumbed to greed, treason, and short-sightedness of the men who proclaimed themselves as leaders for many years till our government returned to power in 1996. After my father's death, our lives spiraled into a dark pit. In Rangpur, we were staying in Rangpur at that time, and we were not aware of my father's death. Our lives took an abrupt turn when some officers asked my mother to pack immediately and leave the Flagstaff house to a remote place. On the 9th of November, we boarded a plane that was sent from Bangladesh Air Force. And I was unable to contain my excitement that I would be seeing my father soon. We arrived at Dhaka, went to my aunt's place, where all our close family members were gathered and grieving. Even then, my brother and I were unaware that our whole family was gathered there to grieve for my father's death. At that time, my brother was 8 and I was 5. And in our innocence of youth, we were unable to connect the dots. My mother and grandmother at this point took us aside and explained to us that you are the 2 children, unfortunate children, whose father is no more. He is with God now. While I did not fully grasp what I heard, my brother immediately started to roll on the carpet, crying, saying he wants my father back. When I saw everyone crying, I started to cry too, having no idea why I was crying. In the meantime, my mother called General Zia Rahman, and her first question was, why was her husband killed? There was silence from the other side. Her second question was, how should she get her husband's body? General Zia replied that our family has to go and get the body from the CMH. Her third, it wasn't a question, it was a request for a national flag, which Zia Rahman never gave it to us. On the afternoon of 10th November, my uncles brought my father's body home on a stretcher covered with white sheet and blood stains on. I ran to the porch to see him, ask them where my father was, not realizing that he's on the stretcher. In my mind, I was associating my father as he was alive, when alive, in uniform, in his beret, and with his swagger stick. After all the rituals were performed, my father was shown to us. If you ask me now how he looked before his death, I won't be able to tell you anymore. But I do remember the last look of my father, which is still instilled in my mind. He was a very tall man. Part of his feet were hanging, which was as white as snow, and his right eye was wide open. His face was unshaved, and he had blood marks on the white sheet. The family took us near. My mother broke into tears. My brother continuously pushing my father to get up, but he couldn't. And I was petrified. I ran to my aunt and told her that I am scared. When they finally wanted to take my father away, my brother drew my father with a national flag and tucked in his funeral clothes. The story of his burial is another episode. Being an army officer, a sub-sector commander of the Liberation War, commandant of Bangladesh Military Academy, and finally the commander of North Bengal, my father was refused and denied to be buried at the army graveyard by General Zia Rahman. Why was he refused? Just because he was loyal to Bangabandhu? After my father was laid to rest, we were homesick and we wanted to go back. Instead, we started to live in a room of 150 square feet. Late in the evening, if any cars honked at the gate, I used to run and I waited for my father to come. But it was always a disappointment for me. It took almost a year for me to understand that he will never come back. We started school after being admitted to the laboratory school, but we couldn't continue for 3 months. We were bullied by the children, by the teachers, and we were regarded as children of a traitor. It was an ordeal for us to go to school when finally the principal asked my mother to put us in some other school because we were it was negatively affecting us. For 2 years, we were forced to study at home as no school wanted to take us. Even the worst Ponzi government of Ziaur Rahman had declared the 7th November as a national holiday. They had the whole city lit with colorful lights, and they enforced a celebratory mood on the whole city. Excellencies and respected guests in front of me, have you seen any reasonable leadership celebrating the death of leaders? Do we, as government, support or celebrate the death anniversaries of our opposition leaders or their family members? I'm very thankful to Honorable Prime Minister because she understood our pain and cancelled the holiday of 7th November. It continues to horrify us, the lack of empathy from the BNP party leader, Khaleda Zia, who proclaimed her birthday to be on the 15th of August. On that day, Khaleda Zia and her party members gathered together to cut cakes and celebrate her false birthday. Recently, we have seen Khaleda Zia has 6 birth dates, and 16th of August is one of them. With such petty views, how can one progress or even make promise of such? Usually, children on weekends go out with their parents. Go on outing with their parents, but our was different. We went to Bonani graveyard every weekend where my father was buried. It was a barren graveyard that consisted of a line where lay the family of Bongo Bondhu, the national leaders killed in jail, and my father. While my mother was crying and praying next to his grave, my brother and I used to dig holes in his grave and put the drawings which we carried from home. I am dedicating a few lines to our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and the unfortunate children like us who are the subject of Zia's vengeance and cruelty. As I sit in heaven and watch you every day, I tried to let you know with signs I never went away. I hear you when you're laughing and watch you as you sleep. I even place my arms around you to calm you as you weep. I see you wish the days away, begging to have me home. So I try to send you signs that you are not alone. We have faced fear and had to struggle through many challenges, but always kept the motivation to keep going forward. We are not dropouts, didn't go off tracks. Instead, we are a generation of empathy, strength, strong ethics, and will. Now, when I sit in the parliament, I have come across many of us who are subject to Ziaur Rahman's act of vengeance, because our fathers and families fought for independence under the leadership of Bongo Bondhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. General Zia's hands were stained with blood of innocent officers who were either shot or hanged. Just alone in 1977, 2nd August, Ziaur Rahman ordered the hanging of 1,156 officers, military and Air Force officers, whose families still don't know why they were killed and they never got their bodies back. After Zia's death, this ruthless legacy continued in the hands of his successors. Alliances with extremist groups whose regular singular motivation is to destabilize Bangladesh and revert the progress made in the 14 years. Excuse me. I would like to conclude by narrating a message from my father to my mother before he went to the battlefield. The message was for my mother. Nilu, I have to leave all of a sudden, but you know for what I am leaving. I hope you will keep keep on giving me the confidence for the reason I am going. I know I will always be successful with my mission because I'm fighting for a cause, and a right cause where so many Bengalis are dying. And if I stay at a safe place, that will be betrayal to the cause and to my conscience. You also keep courage in your mind. Don't fret. There's nothing to get worried about. Only if I know you are all safe and fine, I will have all the courage to fight. There's nothing more important to say about this. Keep confidence on God and everything, and the victory is ours. Excellencies, distinguished guests in front of me, how could you make sense of a man like my father be branded as a traitor? I know that you are all gathered here will never support the tyranny and atrocities of the previous regimes. Instead, you will stand by our government in our moments of difficulties and moments of success. I hope that you will continue to do so, just as our government will continue to do so with all of us as well. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu.
Thank you, Ms. Nahid Ezhar Khan, MP, Member of the Standing Committee, Defense. Her father, Colonel Khandakar Nazmul Huda, was killed on 7 November 1975 as a part of the military coup. Now, to speak on the impact of 15 August, tragedy on the direction and development of Bangladesh in international aspects of the tragedy, I request Honorable Foreign Minister Dr. A.K. Abdul Momen to deliver his speech.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I express my deepest respect and gratitude to the father of the nation and father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, his great wife, Bangamata Fazilunatha Mujib, all his family members who were killed on 15th August 1975. It is one of the darkest days in the history of Bangladesh. Bangabandhu, long when democracy was denied, people's voice was denied. Thanks God that when people's voice was denied, the people of Bangladesh, rank and file, started a war of independence. And thankful to neighbors who helped us. After independence, Bangabandhu ran the country only for 3.5 years. Within that short period of time, as a father of the nation, he established country, achieved the things that we needed to achieve. Within 2 months' time, our friendly foreign force was withdrawn. Within 9 months, he gave us a wonderful constitution. And those who were involved against the independence of Bangladesh, they were arrested. Nearly 26,000 of them were arrested. But later on, he gave amnesty. He was a generous man, very benevolent. So he gave amnesty to around 14,000. But 11,000 were in jail. Those who were involved in arson, in burning, in killing, in rape, they were not given amnesty. Nearly around 800, in order to establish rule of law and good governance, nearly 800 of them were prosecuted. Verdicts were made against them. And unfortunately, after his death, all those criminals were let go. And a different situation arises. Even the family members, particularly daughters of Bangabandhu, were denied to go to court to file cases against the killers because they are given indemnity, that no one can go to the court and place any charge against them. Good news is people of Bangladesh didn't like it. It took a long time, almost 21 years, for our current Prime Minister, the daughter of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, to amend that, to annul that indemnity law. And since then, we started prosecuting the killers. And in the process, we as a Bangladeshi national are trying to, get out our responsibility. It is our obligation responsibility. We must establish rule of law and good governance in the country. I shall expect all my friends all across the globe that they will help us in establishing rule of law and justice. Some of the killers are still abroad. I hope those governments will realize that rule of law and justice is very important. Anyway, our Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina is following the same path, establishing rule of law, democracy and justice in Bangladesh. She has given us some roadmap to achieve the welfare of the people. Bangabandhu always loved his people. And I just quote one thing, many of you might know, when David Frost, the British TV journalist, asked him, "What is your greatest quality?" He said, "I love my people." Then he asked, "What is your greatest weakness?" He said, "I love them too much." That was Bangabandhu. He promulgated a policy, foreign policy, since I'm in the foreign ministry. He was a great preacher for peace and stability. And therefore he started a policy, friendship to all, malice towards none. And he said, peace is imperative for development. Even on those days, Bangabandhu, in order to have peace and development, he started a policy of non-alignment. Till today, we follow his principles of friendship to all, malice towards none. And we try our best to have peace and stability across nations. I shall invite all my friends all across the globe that we all should work hard to establish peace and stability across nations. That would be way out to help the poor and the wretched. That would be way out for the welfare of the people and the masses. I thank you all. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu.
Thank you, Honorable Foreign Minister, Dr. Abdul Momen. Now, to speak on the Annals of History, the Indelible Mark of August, I would like to invite Honorable Information Minister, Dr. Mohammed Hassan Mahmood, to say a few words on this.
Good morning to you all. Honorable Chairman of the meeting, Chairman of International Subcommittee of Bangladesh Awami League, Ambassador Mohammad Jamir, and International Affairs Secretary of our party, Dr. Shami Ahmed, and Honorable Foreign Minister, Law Minister, and our party leader, Jahangir Kabir Nanok, Abdul Rahman, and Nahid MP, members of the Diplomatic Corps, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. I want to thank International Affairs Committee to organize this meeting to commemorate Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the greatest Bengali of all time. Indeed, the killing of Bangabandhu was not killing of a person or not killing of president of a state. The miscreants killed Bangabandhu indeed to assassinate the independence of the country. And the crime against humanity was because children of 4 years old, children of 11-year-old, and pregnant women were killed on that day. And the greatest violation of humanity, we very often talk about human rights. The greatest violation of human rights was done by Ziaur Rahman, because an indemnity ordinance was passed. Then Ziaur Rahman was the army chief, and later on, in 1979, and Ziaur Rahman became president of Bangladesh. After the parliament election in 1979, in the first session, the indemnity ordinance was passed, giving indemnity to the killers who killed Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. That was the greatest violation of human rights in the history of Bangladesh. We very often talk about human rights. That was the biggest violation of human rights in this country. Law Minister will brief afterward. Because one person should have the right to seek the justice. Our leader, Sheikh Hasina, the daughter of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the present Prime Minister, and President of Bangladesh, Ramani, she did not, and her sister, younger sister, they did not have the right to seek the justice, to go to the court. It was taken away by Ziaur Rahman. I am a political person, and very often BNP leaders goes to you to talk about human rights. I would request you to ask them why Ziaur Rahman passed the indemnity ordinance in 1979, giving indemnity to the killers of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. I think this is important to ask them. And also, you know that in 2013, 14, and 15, how people are burned to death, how petrol bomb was thrown to the innocent people, were burned to death, and hundreds of people of human rights. So these questions should be asked to them. Not only Ziaur Rahman was Bangabandhu's killing, he also killed thousands of army officers and soldiers during his tenure in power. Thousands of, and most of them without any legal procedure was killed. Many of them. So these are the biggest violation of human rights in this country. So today, diplomatic community, we are thankful to you, the diplomatic community, because Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman had the dream to transform Bangladesh into a prosperous country. Bangabandhu could not fulfill the dream because he was killed just within 3.5 years' time when he came to power in 1975. But under the leadership of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, the daughter of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, Bangladesh has gone far away to fulfill the dream of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and to fulfill the dream of our freedom fighters. Bangladesh was a food deficit country. Bangladesh is a country where we have the highest density of population in the planet. Bangladesh is the country where we have the lowest per capita arable land in the world. And in Bangladesh is a country where drought, flood, cyclone, and climate change irregular phenomena in this country. Despite having all these obstacles, Bangladesh today, a country having highest density of population, having lowest per capita arable land, is now self-sufficient in food grain production. We are number 92 in terms of the area in the world, but we are number 3 in paddy production, rice production. We are number 4 in vegetable production. We are number 3 in freshwater fish production. We are number 7 in potato production, but in terms of the area, we are number 92. This is not because of magic. This is because of magical leadership of our Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, the daughter of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. And we are thankful to you because you have given us support over the last more than 50 years' time after our independence. And it would be to establish the justice in a country, you have to try who have done injustice to the people. So biggest injustice, human rights violation was the killing of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Many killers are still absconding in different countries around the globe. So we would seek your support to bring them so could be executed. Law Minister will explain in details. I would conclude my speech here. Thanks to you all. Thanks to the International Affairs Committee to invite me here. Thank you. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Information Minister Dr. Hassan Mahmood. You've all heard about the killings. Now let's talk a little bit about the road to justice, what happened with the cases of these killings. Today we have with us Honorable Law Minister Advocate Ansul Haq MP. His father, Mr. Sherajul Haq MP, was the chief prosecutor of the Bangabandhu murder case and the jail killing case. And upon his death, our Honorable Law Minister Advocate Anisul Haq MP became the chief prosecutor of these cases. I would like to invite him now to deliver his speech on the long road to justice. Honorable Law Minister Advocate Anisul Haq MP.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Before I begin, I express my deep and profound respect for the greatest Bengali of all times, the dreamer of Sonar Bangla, and the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and 17 members of his family who were killed on the fateful night of 15th August 1975 in this house. Excellencies, distinguished guests on the podium, and friends sitting here. A very good morning. Assalamu alaikum. I am tasked with the difficult job of explaining the long road to justice. As you will very well know that on the 15th of August, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman along with 17 members of his family, were killed. The place of occurrence were three. The places of occurrence, rather, were three. One was this house, where Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was residing with his family. Another was the house of his nephew, Sheikh Fazlul Haq Moni. And the third one was in Bailey Road, next to the Officers Club, where a member of his cabinet, Mr. Abdul Rauf Sarniabad, was residing with his family. If one sees the design of the act and the offense that was committed on the 15th of August 1975, it will be very clear that the target of that was Bangabandhu himself and members of his family. And accordingly, they executed that plan. Thereafter, Khandakar Mushtaq Ahmed, one of the main conspirators of the entire killing, took oath as president of the country and also declared martial law. It was then thought that if these killers were removed from office or the position of power, then they might be tried for the killing of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and his family members. So they planned to enact a law by the name Indemnity Ordinance, which was promulgated on the 26th of September 1975 and read as follows. This ordinance may be called the Indemnity Ordinance 1975. Restrictions on the taking of any legal or other proceedings against persons in respect of certain acts and things. Notwithstanding, then paragraph 1 mentioned, it's not very long, so I'm reading it. Notwithstanding anything contained in any law, including a law relating to any defense service for the time being in force, no suit, prosecution, or other proceedings, legal or disciplinary, shall lie or be taken in before or by any court, including the Supreme Court and court martial or other authority against any person, including a person who is or has at any time been subject to any law relating to any defense service for or on account or in respect of any act, matter or thing done or step taken by such person in connection with or in preparation or execution of any plan for, mind it, in preparation or execution of any plan for or as necessary step toward the change of government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh and the proclamation of martial law on the morning of the 15th of August 1975. Paragraph 2 read, for the purposes of this section, a certificate by the President or any person authorized by him in this behalf that any act, matter or thing was done or step taken by any person mentioned in the certificate in connection with or in preparation or execution of any plan for or as necessary step towards the change of government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh and the proclamation of martial law on the morning of 15th August 1975 shall be sufficient evidence of such act, matter or thing having done or step having been taken in connection with or in preparation or execution of any plan for or any necessary steps towards the change of such government. Now, this provided the indemnity that was required by the killers to establish themselves in the society. it was also very clearly mentioned that a certificate from the president is required. Since 1975 till the 1st of October 1996, for 21 years, no case could be filed for the murder of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, which ended with the murder of his 10-year-old son, Sheikh Russell. It was always mentioned that the indemnity ordinance is a bar to any proceedings or legal proceedings against the killers. As you will know, in 1975, on the 3rd of November, as my colleague Nahid was telling you, there was another coup which on the 7th of November led to bloodshed and the killing of her father and Major General Khalid Musharraf. On assumption of office, Ziaur Rahman, who was then the Deputy Chief Marshal Administrator and the former Chief Justice who became the President on removing Khandakar Mushtaq, these killers were allowed to flee, and they were also given jobs in the diplomatic corps and appointed as officers in Bangladesh embassies around the world. They never came back. Few of them didn't want to go. They did leave at that time, but later on they had come back. And one of those few was killer Lieutenant Colonel Farooq, Lieutenant Colonel Rashid, and people like that. But because of the fact that they enjoyed this indemnity, they were not tried nor questioned for committing such an offense. I mentioned 1st of October 1996 because on the 2nd of October 1996, the first information report, which we call FIR, or a case, the beginning of a case was started, as at that point of time, for the first time, Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina had formed the government. So we initiated the murder case, and at that point of time also, the question was raised that whether the indemnity ordinance is a stumbling block to initiating the case. There were two schools of thought. One, which was led by my father, he was of the opinion that as the killers had not obtained any certificate which was a requisite to rely on the indemnity ordinance, they can be tried without the indemnity ordinance being repealed. And there was another, of course, that the indemnity ordinance needs to be repealed. Leaving aside that argument, the fact remains that indemnity ordinance was the blackest chapter in the, apart from the killing of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and 17 members of his family, it was the other black chapter in the history, or for that matter, the legal history of Bangladesh. So of course, this needed to be removed from the statute books. Therefore, in the parliament, a bill was placed for repealing the indemnity ordinance, and that was passed on November 12, 1996, on a simple majority. This repeal ordinance, a repeal act, was also challenged by the killers in the High Court. I mention this because of the fact that I would like to emphasize that these killers who had committed the most brutal of crimes were given all possible legal rights to defend themselves. They were not taken, hauled in as they did in killing the 10-year-old son of our father of the nation, Sheikh Russell. They were not hauled and killed without a trial. They were not killed. Rather, they were given the chance to stand a trial. 61 witnesses deposed against them, none deposed in their favor, and the trial court passed a verdict sentencing them to death as is allowed by the law of our country. I would like to mention here that we could have resorted to taking the shorter route of forming a special tribunal and allowing a summary trial to take place, and would have been able to finish it within 3 to 4 months. But our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, always believed that he may be one of the greatest leaders of all times and the greatest for Bangladesh. He still remained an ordinary person. The president of the country lived in this house, which shows how close he was to the people of this country. And he believed that even in death, probably he should be given that same treatment that ordinary people of Bangladesh get. That is, if a trial has to take place of which the subject is the greatest Bengali of all, our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, in that case, it should be held in an ordinary court of law through the ordinary legal process that is enjoyed by every common man of this country. And that is why the trial of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, which was very much done under the guidance of his daughter, not as the Prime Minister of the country, but as one who has suffered the loss. Therefore, as I said, the trial court, which consisted of one judge, and on giving them the right to cross-examine every witness that stood on the witness box, that meaning 61 witnesses, and also being given the opportunity to defend themselves, not through lawyers. We have a provision under the Code of Criminal Procedure that the accused can put up after the allegations have been read out, after the deposition of the witnesses, he can say few things in his defense, which they were allowed to do, and they did say. So, on proving conclusively, without any reasonable doubt, that they were the killers of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and his family members, the trial court sentenced them, convicted them, and sentenced them to death penalty. In our law, there is a provision that when the trial court punishes somebody with death, it automatically goes to the High Court division within 7 days for confirmation. Accordingly, this case also went to the High Court division for confirmation of the death penalty. The accused who were present at that time also filed an appeal against the judgment of the trial court. There lies an unfortunate chapter here also. For no reason cited, we saw that 7 judges 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 judges of the High Court division expressed their embarrassment to hear this appeal. I said before, and I do retaliate, till date they have not given any reason why they did not hear it. Thereafter, the Honorable Chief Justice, who later on became the Chief Advisor in 2001, Justice Latifur Rahman, in an order designated specifically 2 judges, both of whom retired as Chief Justices of Bangladesh, to hear this case. Bangabandhu murder case was heard. The hearing started probably, if I remember, in 1998 in the High Court division. And the judgment was delivered, if I'm not wrong, on the 14th of November 1998. There also, unfortunately, what happened was you see, in the High Court division, such cases are heard by 2 judges, which we call a division bench. And in that bench, the 2 judges were of different opinions. We call that dissenting judgment. And why this dissenting judgment happened? There were 15 accused in this case, and all of them were convicted and sentenced by the trial court. But the senior judge convicted and sentenced 10 of them to death, which the junior judge did not agree with, and he sentenced all 15 of them to death. The law says when such a thing happens, then it goes to a 3rd judge. He adjudicates the matter. So it went to the 3rd judge, where he modified the judgment to the extent that 12 were sentenced to death and 3 were given other sentences. As you have heard from one of the eyewitnesses, Roma, he said what he had seen on that fateful night here. And he also narrated the courageous story of Bangamata Sheikh Fuziluddin Nasa Mujib. It is very, very difficult. I pause here and say a few words on that. It's extremely difficult to find somebody. It's rare that somebody says when she or he, for that matter, sees his wife or her husband lying dead, that you have to kill me here. This is very rarely done. Either one prays for one's life, one begs for one's life, or one remains silent. But she said, you have to kill me here. I am going nowhere. You have done the final act, so I don't matter. You have to kill me here. And that is what Roma had said. So these were the witnesses on the basis of whose deposition the case had ended in conviction and sentence. Thereafter, we have to wait, as in 2001, there was a change of government. It could have easily been finished. I am not here, though it is difficult for me not to play the blame game, but I am not here to blame anybody. But a single effort, if it had been taken on that period, then we could have seen this case end long time before it ended. You see, I have my own personal experience. In 2002, I was one of the prosecutors of this case. And probably it was more or less the second last time my ailing father, Mr. Sirajul Haq, had gone to court. It was the 27th of March 2002. We received a telephone call from the then Law Minister, Mr. Maudud Ahmed. That telephone call was actually made as on the 27th and 28th of March. The Supreme Court Bar Association election was being held. Mr. Ahmed had called my father and myself to vote for BNP candidate. At that point of time, I took the opportunity of asking him that, you see, because a lot of judges who are now sitting in the appellate division had expressed their embarrassment to hear this appeal, why don't you please appoint 2 judges? They will not be appointed as permanent judges of the appellate division. Constitution, Article 97 provides that you can appoint additional judges. They will do their duty and then they will revert back to the High Court division, but you can do that. The power is with you. Because again, I must say, to bring everything into context, that in 2007, that is during the caretaker's government, on the 1st of November, was the judiciary separated from the executive. So when I was talking to Mr. Maudud Ahmed, the judiciary was not separate. So it was also a responsibility of the then law minister. And I had requested him. He heard me, but nothing happened. So we had to wait another 7 years. And when, in the meantime, of course, I must be thankful to the caretaker government, and I must also express my deepest gratitude to the government to the then government of the United States of America, because that was the first time a country returned one of the convicts and killer of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman to Bangladesh. And when he was returned in 2007, there is a provision in the law that first, if there is an appeal filed in the appellate division, then first the appellate division needs to accept the appeal. Only then there will be a final hearing. So in 2007, the leave application, we call that leave granting. Leave application was heard and leave was granted on the prayer of the accused persons to hear the case. In 2009, in November, the case was taken up. It was, and the judgment was delivered probably on the 18th of November or 19th of November, confirming the judgment of the appellate division, or of the High Court division, sorry. And then there is another provision under the Constitution that the accused or any party who's aggrieved by the decision of the appellate division can also file a review. In this case, the accused persons also filed a review. I'm going through this history because of, I emphasize, because of the fact that I would like to very clearly state before your excellencies that the killers were given all the legal rights that they had. And they also executed those legal rights. Then the review petition was, though these are all tragic events, but I was fortunate enough to be the lawyer for the government, and the review petition was also rejected. And those who were present they were also given the right to ask for mercy, which they did. But I read those mercy petitions. They did not say, you see, the requirement of a mercy petition is that you have to accept your guilt and you say that I am sorry, I will not do this anymore. But in their mercy petition, in a roundabout way, these are all historic documents which are lying probably in this house as it is the museum. They said that yes, no, very good, we tried, we this, that and the other, now we want mercy. Those petitions were rejected by His Excellency the President of the country, and they were executed. Now, in a very short way, I would say that, Excellencies, as I said, I'm not here to play the blame game. All I'm trying to get across is the fact that please show me one country in the world which has had a law where it says that yes, you have killed the president of the country, or for that matter, an ordinary person of the country, or for that matter, a 10-year-old boy, but for your killing, you will get no punishment. If, and that too, if you have a certificate from the president of the country that I have killed, I am a declared murderer, but no court of justice can hold me responsible for that. This is going back to the Dark Ages. I don't think even in the Dark Ages such laws were passed. Vengeance was there, revenge was there, but such laws were not passed. The statute book was not blackened by such laws. As I said, that this indemnity ordinance during the trial in the trial court was challenged. And the High Court, what was challenged? Let me be very clear about that. It was said that the repeal or act, the act that repealed the indemnity ordinance, is ultra vires of the Constitution. The High Court held that no, it is not ultra vires of the Constitution. Therefore, they went again to the Appellate Division. The Appellate Division, here again also, I pause, and with all due respect to the judges of the Appellate Division, I think they have been very conservative in their decision in saying, they said very clearly that the Repeal Act can be, the Repeal Act is not ultra vires of the Constitution, and because the indemnity ordinance was not a part of the Constitution, it could be repealed by an ordinary simple majority. And so having been done, it is legal. Now, my question is that, again, I go back to the book, and I would like to read only one article of our Constitution. I am very much inclined to read two, but I will read one. Article 31 of our Constitution says to enjoy the protection of the law and to be treated in accordance with law, and only in accordance with law, is the inalienable right of every citizen wherever he may be, and of every person for the time being within Bangladesh. And in particular, no action detrimental to the life, liberty, body, reputation, or property of any person shall be taken except in accordance with law. Their lordships, in giving the judgment, only mentioned the fact that the Repeal Act was done legally. They did not even delve for one sentence on the legality of the Independence Ordinance. I am here now today to raise this question before everyone, not only the diplomatic corps, the distinguished ambassadors of different countries, but to everyone who has a conscience and who understands the due process of law, that how can that question not be raised, that such an act, such an ordinance, which was later made into an act, can be enacted or passed by the president of a country, because it hits the very fundamental right of a person not getting protection of the law. But unfortunately, that was not done. Even then, so we have been able to bring the murder case of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman to an end, and we are still looking for the accused who have fled and hiding abroad. As I have already and always said, that we will, till the last drop of our blood, try to get them back. And we will do that. We will plead to the international community. We will request all governments where they are hiding to give them back to us, not to take revenge, not for vengeance, but to ensure that justice has been done. To send this message to the people of our country and the people of the entire world, that Bangladesh does not allow nor harbor the offender. And we will do that. Excellencies, before I go, I would also like to mention one other thing. As we finished the most vital chapter of this entire tragedy, that is the trial, we are now into the next phase. It is needed for our nation that we identify those who were behind the commission of this very brutal offense. It is now the demand of the populace on our government that we form a commission. I must reiterate here, and again my cabinet colleagues are here, I must reiterate that the commission is not to witch hunt. The commission is not to take revenge. A commission will be formed to put history in its correct place, and for the generations to come to know what happened on that fateful night. Because history was to a great extent twisted for 21 years. There were generations within that period who did not know what had happened. Now, with the building, as I say, with the building or constructing, that matter, the Padda Bridge with our own resources under the leadership of our sagacious Prime Minister, the Bangabandhu's daughter, Sheikh Hasina, we have turned a very big page in our history. We have learned to stand on our own feet. And as we do that, we want to equip our generations to come to carry this torch forward, knowing the correct history, to be able to distinguish between friends, fence-sitters, and enemies. And that is why we tend to go forward to forming a commission. I'm very, very thankful to you for listening to me patiently. I am grateful. And again, your presence has greatly made this occasion a success. I thank the organizers for such an opportunity. I hope our efforts to carry forward the legacy of our father of the nation will not only be understood, but will also be assisted forward by your partnership. Thank you. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu.
Thank you, Honorable Law Minister, for that very informative speech. At this point, we would like to welcome any questions that you might have for our panel of speakers. If there are no questions, then we can move on to the closing speech. I would just like to inform all of you that after the closing speech, you will be welcome to place a wreath of flowers by the Bangabandhu Memorial, and then after that, there will be a tour of the Bangabandhu Memorial Museum, following which there will be lunch at Santur. Are there any questions that I can take for the panel of speakers? Okay, if there are no questions, then we will move on to the closing speech to be delivered by Mohammad Zamir, Ambassador, retired Ambassador, Chairman of Bangladesh Awami League International Affairs Subcommittee.
Distinguished guests, friends from the media, and of course, all the others who have joined us on a very important occasion. In a month when we are observing the 47th anniversary of the heinous killings which took place on 15th August 1975. This month also has unfortunately seen on 21st August, which is tomorrow, in 2004, an effort through throwing of grenades and an attempt to kill an honorable Prime Minister. Now, these are things which you all probably know about, but I'm just going to, we have heard some excellent comments during our discussion, during our presentation. But I had the honor of working with Bangabandhu as his chef de cabinet. I met him in 1958. And subsequently, when my wife and myself had sought political asylum in London in 1971, towards the end of 71, in 1972, I met him again in the Claridge Hotel in London. And then he asked me to come back to Dhaka to help him, work with him. And I came back on the 21st, my wife and myself. We flew from London to Moscow, and from Moscow we came back to Dhaka. And on 22nd I was in this house with him, and he appointed me as the person who would look after the India desk. Now I'm saying this because he came back on the 10th of January. I met him on the 8th of January in London. And what we must remember is that he was not only a charismatic leader, he made a very important remark at Palam Airport in New Delhi on 10th. He described his journey to a free Bangladesh as, quote, a journey from darkness to light, from captivity to freedom, from desolation to hope. And interesting thing is, his magnanimity and belief in the people of Bangladesh was reflected in his optimism. Because I remember that he formed a repatriation committee, because he was the chairman of that committee, because more than 10 million people of Bangladeshi origin had sought shelter in India and the surrounding areas. And he made me the secretary of that commission to help him. And two other persons were asked to assist. One was on the advice of Prince Sadruddin Aga Khan, who was the head of UNHCR at that time in Geneva. One was Kofi Annan, who was a P5 officer in Geneva, and the other person was Sergio Vieira de Mello. So I had the pleasure of knowing both of them from 1972. Now the thing is that Bangabandhu believed in nationalism, democracy, secularism, and socialism. He felt that they were required for the good of the common man. Bangabandhu was also a firm believer in the rich cultural and literary heritage of Bangladesh, and for him that was the springboard of the Bengali ethos, its tradition and its nationalism. I'm saying this because I remember at various times he sent me out on various visits. One was the visit which took place when he asked me to go and assist. The war had started in 1973 between Syria and Israel, Egypt and Israel. And I knew General Shazli, because I had been posted in Egypt before, and I knew him, and I also knew Omar Sharif, who was also Egyptian origin. So the role he played there was presented to Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, who was saying all the time, was of Pakistan, that there's no use of recognizing Bangladesh because they are going to be part of India. So later on, in the OIC summit, which was organized in Lahore in 1974, I had the great honor of accompanying Bangabandhu and being an interpreter between him in Arabic with King Faisal of Saudi Arabia, who had come there, and Prince Saud Al Faisal was also there, the foreign minister, and then later on also with him and the Emperor of Iran at that time, Reza Shah Pahlavi. And that resulted in eventually my being asked by Bangabandhu to go to Iran in 1974 and present my credentials to the king. What I'm saying this is as a background is that this gentleman had only friendship in his heart, and he always believed that one must help the people. He arranged with the help of Indira Gandhi the repatriation of more than 10 million people of Bangladeshi origin and rehabilitated them in a war-ravaged country. And unfortunately after that, the August push was carried out, this assassination by a certain section of the armed forces and a group of disgruntled politicians. And they roamed the streets of Dhaka before 15th of August and swept aside innocence, their eyes showing as much charity as glass. The voice of liberty was snuffed out by the very men trained to save from the army rather than to maim. I remember writing a poem on this. I'll not take time on that. But for me, I was not there in the country in 1975, but the whole process was so unfortunate, as has been explained by the law minister, this indemnity ordinance and then eventually all that happened after that. But the consequence of such lack of accountability was only natural. Murderers who had taken the murder into this house in 1975 to commit the next crime, that is exactly what happened on 3rd November 1975. 4 prominent leaders of the Awami League, formerly ministers, including the acting president and the prime minister during the War of Liberation, were brutally killed within the Dhaka Central Jail. I'll not go into the legal aspects because that has been explained by the Minister for Law. But what I ask for is that the process of law and the judicial process needs to be followed because that is part of the human rights obligations of all states. It is not enough to tell other states that you need to be consistent with human rights and you need to be able to follow these human rights obligations. I am saying this because in the 27 books which I have written, out of that one book, Human Rights Issues and International Law, is now a recommended reference book in Harvard University. I am saying all of this because what we are attempting now is to show to the world that we can move forward, thanks to all my distinguished colleagues here from different countries. I take into this opportunity our ambassador from Japan, ambassador from Germany, our reference from Saudi Arabia, and all the others that, and of course, she came to say Russia, and of course Russia, definitely. But the thing is that while all of this is taking place, we need to remember that we have to all work together. I was telling the Russian ambassador when he arrived here that I was visiting Russia in 1991, and at that time it was there to sign an accord with Mr. Bismarck, who was then the foreign minister, had replaced Gromyko. And at that time the coup was taking place and Gorbachev had been moved out, and Yanayev, I had a meeting with Yanayev, who was in the vice president, he was the acting president, and the man who took us around was Mr. Popov, who was the head of KGB, and he brought with him a young man who was under him, and he asked him to look after us. That was Mr. Putin. So I have had dealings with Russia for a long time, from 1974 onwards. But the thing is that we must all work together. And I take this opportunity to highlight one thing, that Bangabandhu managed to repatriate and rehabilitate 10 million people who had gone as refugees from Bangladesh into India. But it is very sad that even today we have not been able to repatriate more than 1 million people of Rohingya origin who are presently in Bangladesh. All of you, please assist us, because their presence, we welcomed them for 5 years, but we need to understand that instability that is created or is being created by their presence, including drug smuggling and all these other things, needs to be stopped. And the only way to do it, if we all work together, because humanity has only one savior, and that is God. We are today on the 3rd day of Janmashtami. We are also, we should remember what is said in Surah Yasin. Jala lakum mina shajar al-aqdar naran feza antum minatokedun. Then at the same time, in Surah Rahman, there is reference to the God of the 2 easts and the 2 wests. In Surah Muzammil, there is again reference to God, things like that. I had the great happiness because of Prince Saud al-Faisal of being able to go inside the Kaaba and pray inside the Kaaba twice. So I consider that all of you will forgive me for mentioning so many things, but I am so happy all of you could come and find time for us, and I'm very grateful to our honorable ministers for being able to find time to come and be with us, and of course the lady member of parliament. Thank you very much, sir. Our secretary has got a few things to be done, and we hope that you will be able to visit inside the house and the museum, see the museum, and then there is lunch. Thank you very much. God bless all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Zamir. I would like to invite all of you now to please place the wreath of flowers by the Bangabandhu Memorial right over here, on your right. Well, on my right and your left.
আরেকটা কি